aloha, and as always, mahalo for tuning in to Doko Ga TV right here on Hawaii News Now, K5 and KHNL. On last week's show, episode 2 of our Europe Mania adventures, the GLOBUS and Non-Stop Travel group enjoyed our arrival and exploration of Portugal. Throughout this trip, I have been visiting sites that I studied about in history classes or saw in movies, documentaries, or on the History Channel, so seeing and walking in these unique and often ancient locales has been the most fascinating and thrilling experience. After a fantastic lunch at Checkers featured on last week's episode, we continued our trek through Portugal, heading from the city of Cascais to the town of Sintra while making a stop at the westernmost point of continental Europe, Kabutohoka Lighthouse and Cape. The lighthouse has been in operation since 1772 and is the third oldest lighthouse lining the Portuguese coast. Until the 14th century, visitors, navigators, scholars, and historians believed the world was flat and that Kabutohoka marked its edge. In fact, many thought sailors who dared venture past the ocean's end would fall off the earth. I get it though. I can understand that for people in that time who may have come here and peered over the steep and rugged cliffs while gazing out over the seemingly endless Atlantic Ocean with no other land in sight could easily feel that this foreground would be, indeed, the world's edge. Thankfully, this did not deter Portugal's many celebrated pioneering explorers. Hiking trails, postcard-worthy picturesque views, and cove beaches make this a popular scenic site. Both visitors and locals make their way to the Cape's edge to get a glimpse of the captivating views as powerful winds whip through and waves crash on the shores below. Sitting near the cliff's edge overlooking the sea is the Kabutohoka Monument. With the cross sitting at its very top, the tribute has a placard written by Portugal's greatest poet, Luigi Camões, which states Kabutohoka is where the land ends and the sea begins. The 808 group and I thoroughly enjoyed playing tourist here at Kabutohoka. We made some new four-legged friends, and before heading out to our next destination, I came across a gift and wine shop. How convenient! As I was still thirsty for the savory Portuguese wine that we had gotten to enjoy on last week's show. Thankfully, our super guide, Beatriz, helped me find a few bottles that would satisfy. Do you like that one?
I like that one.
You like this one? Okay.
I like this one. And this one is just because of the bottle. This is, if you're gonna buy the bottle, buy this one. Mateus wine is the traditional one and he has the best, the original Mateus wine. I like this one.
Our history lesson on Portugal continued at a very significant heritage site located between the town of Sintra and Lisbon, the Palácio Nacional de Queluz. The beautiful and majestic grounds, details, and design at the Queluz National Palace and Gardens illustrate the harmonious and somewhat symbiotic bond between nature and the luxurious and impressive architecture here in Portugal. From the gardens, fountains, and sculptures to the large staterooms, every inch of the palace personifies the lavish lifestyle suited for 2 generations of Portugal's royal family and court. Originally built as a summer palace, the 18th century manor is a national monument constructed with a variety of influences that showcased Baroque, Rococo, and neoclassic design styles.
As we go in, you start to look beautiful. This was when it was built, was supposed to be a summer residence where the family used to come to spend some time on the weekends, to enjoy the countryside, to go hunting. And later on, because of the earthquake, they end up having to move in here, and then they lived in here after the earthquake. This is the century of gold. 18th century is the century of gold. Everything is covered. There is not an inch in these walls that are not decorated. Everything is really covered, special with gold leaf. All this is literally gold leaf. Sometimes covers wood, sometimes covers plaster. Beautiful chandeliers that they come from Murano, Italy. So all the best, all these decorations, over-decorated. And this is the throne room. This room was used for many events, and there was, we call it the throne room. There was in here that the king and the queen, they had some receptions where people come to see the king and the queen. And it was also used to celebrate the birth of the prince heir of the court, the Portuguese court. When we normally invite people, what we have, it is the big dining room that we first saw in the throne room. And you will understand now what it means to set the tables. Tables like this did not exist. So most of the rooms of the palace, they were empty, like the two big rooms that we saw. And whenever there was an event, literally once again, IKEA style, they set the tables, they assembled the table for that specific event. And that's where the expression to set the table comes from. If we wanted to enjoy the open air, when we approach, we can see the gardens from different parts. Normally in Europe, because in Europe it rains a lot, which is not the case of Portugal and Spain, the palace, they only have one main facade. You're gonna find out in here that the palace does the shape of a U letter. It doesn't matter. In the morning, the sun is coming in on one side of the palace, on that side. Now in the afternoon, it's coming in on this side. There's always light coming in, and we always can approach the gardens from wherever we are.
Everyone wanted to experience more of Lisbon City, and what better way to do this than via a walking tour? And what better way of enjoying a walking tour than doing one that involves food and drink? For our final night in Portugal, part of the 808 entourage opted in for the Bairro Alto foodie stroll, led by Kat from EatingEurope.com. With over 7,500 TripAdvisor reviews, boasting a 99% recommendation rating, and being featured on National Geographic and numerous travel guides, jumping on this eating excursion with Kat was one of the top highlights of this trip. Kat took us around much of the back streets in the Bairro Alto area of Lisbon, allowing us to experience smaller, hole-in-the-wall eateries and foods, each with its own charm, fantastic flavors, and provided for a very entertaining and immersive evening here in Portugal.
This is for me one of the most magical places in Lisbon. So let me just describe briefly before we start taking photos of what we have here. Everything to the right is Bairro Alto, which translates to high neighborhood because it's up on a hill. That was the party neighborhood. We have over 300 bars and restaurants in this tiny little neighborhood. Wow. This is actually one of our newer neighborhoods. Bairro Alto is only 300 years old. On November 1st of 1755, we had the largest earthquake in European history. An earthquake that was an 8.7 on the Richter scale, massive. November 1st is All Saints' Day, which is a very religious holiday. And so people had lit candles in their homes and in churches. And when the ground shook, all of the candles fell to the ground, so the whole city was on fire. On top of that, the epicenter of the earthquake was in the ocean. So we also had a massive tsunami. 2 tsunami waves come in. In one day, 85% of the city was destroyed, including Bairro Alto, and 35% of the population died. In this view here, we have the St. George's Castle straight ahead, and the neighborhoods below, Alfama, which was the old Jewish neighborhood, and Mureiria, which was the old Muslim neighborhood. Those were the only 2 neighborhoods that survived the earthquake. So that on the hill on that side is the more historic. It dates back almost 1,000 years. Whereas Bairro Alto and all of the downtown area, even though it does look very old and historic, is only 300 years old. So Bairro Alto, where we are at, you're going to see that it's like divided in parallel streets. Everything is organized. It was one of the first organized neighborhoods in the city. Whereas if you go to the older parts, it's like a maze. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. So I just wanted to bring you here at golden hour to enjoy the view. One of my favorite restaurants It is called leve. We do not have tapas in Portugal. It's not a thing. When we have small portions of food, they're called petiscos, and it's what you would have before having a main course, so an appetizer.
Not tapas, petiscos. And this is the first one.
I hope it's moist.
I think Cora with you always gonna be moist. No worries. Anosa!
Okay.
A nice one. This is very nice.
Our first sampling was Leve Leve's Espetaginhos Chifrango. These golden brown chicken skewers were so full of flavor and savory.
Delicious.
And while brown on the outside, the inside was so moist. Then, of course, we needed to try it with the signature dipping sauce, which is a Leve Leve secret that enhanced the eating experience exponentially.
Wow. This is really good. I taste the coconut.
Taste the coconut.
The ginger. I think they should sell buckets of this sauce, because this sauce is amazing. Oh, the chicken's done perfectly too. Cora, we have a winner.
Winner.
Excellent food, drinks, and staff made for a great start as we continue to learn more about and explore this beautiful city.
So guys, by the way, this restaurant is called Consensual. It's one of the only fine dining restaurants in Bairro Alto, closed door concept, and it is amazing. Paula, the owner, she was a lawyer. She didn't really like practicing law, so she traded her law degree for a chef hat and opened up the restaurant, and is doing really well. By the way, guys, you're going to start seeing a lot of these streamers hanging on the balconies. These are all leftover decorations from a month-long celebration that we have here in June. We celebrate the saints for an entire month, and that what translates to is that we party for an entire month. The oldest neighborhoods compete amongst each other to see which neighborhood has the best decorations. And so during June, the city is transformed. Everywhere you walk, you have all of these streamers from one corner to the other. And there's makeshift wooden booths where people are grilling sardines, and there's live music. And everyone from like newborn babies to great-great-grandparents are out on the street dancing the night away.
Vegas, baby! Vegas!
So guys, we're going to go to our second restaurant where we're going to have 2 tastings. And I just wanted to point out a couple of really cool things. All of the tiles on the exterior, these are original tiles dating back to the 1700s. And this was usually placed in the courtyards of very wealthy families. Here you have a guitar from Chutos and Pontapés, one of the most famous Portuguese bands. It was from the guitarist of the group. This is the wine that I buy for myself.
Okay.
Ermelinda de Freitas. A nossa!
Nosa! Nosa!
A nossa!
Please share what it is that you do and like how people can find you and kind of come on and try these great experiences.
Of course. So our company's name is Eating Europe. We operate across 10 different European cities. And I'm the operations manager for Eating Europe Lisbon. So all we do exclusively is food tours. And so what better way to get to know a city and a culture than through food?
So I've been accused of, like with my show, like exclusively eating for like 99% of the show. So this is perfect. Thank you very much. It worked out very well.
Very welcome.
What should people like watching in Hawaii or watching online know about Portugal? What are things that you suggest for them to do?
Well, besides eating, of course, because, well, Portugal is a very underrated, underdiscovered country that has so much to offer. We're a tiny country of 10 million people with so much diversity in cuisine, in culture, in nature. And I think that one of the most common mistakes that people do is spend too little time here. So because it's such a small country, they just assume, 5 days will be enough. But literally every region is so different.
5 things people need to do in Portugal besides eating.
Okay, besides eating, that's very fair. My first recommendation is to spend as much time as possible 10 days at least.
10 days.
I would definitely suggest that. So I would say that some of the classics that you cannot miss is go to Sintra, for example, which is about 40 minutes away from Lisbon. Spend maybe a day doing the touristy things that are very much worth it, but also spend a day just getting lost. Everyone is so friendly. Everyone speaks English. Portugal's been named the 3rd safest country in the world 3 years in a row. It's safe. Just get lost, explore the hidden corners. I would say spend a day in the beach.
Beach, okay, good to know.
100%. We're a peninsula, so we have beach literally everywhere. Get in touch with nature.
They can follow you online at
eatingeurope.com and Instagram is Eating Europe, I believe.
Okay. Well, thank you. We're gonna enjoy some of the great dishes here, and this is Manu.
This is Manu. We have a typical Portuguese cheese with homemade pumpkin jam. We have Portuguese chorizo, homemade marinated olive, and some bread. And some of the great wine from the Douro region. And our cheese is special. Our cheese is special because we put something called pumpkin jam on it. The one at this restaurant is homemade. They made 6 kilos for us, all at their home. We're going to have some chorizo with it. And then the second thing is a codfish dish called bacalhau à brás. The most consumed fish in Portugal is codfish. It is the only fish that is 100% imported. We cannot catch it off the Portuguese coast. It's all from Norway. Portuguese sailors arrived in Norway in the 1500s, and they saw that Norwegian fishermen were drying and salting the cod to preserve for the winter months. And they thought, perfect, we can take this cod with us on our month-long adventure through wherever it is that we're going. And when they got back to Portugal, they sold it for very, very cheap. So traditionally, it was a poor man's fish, and out of poverty often comes a lot of creativity. So we have over 365 different ways of preparing codfish. It was a recipe invented here in Bairro Alto, and each family has its own version of these 365 different ways.
The food here at Manu Restaurant and Tapas Bar was fantastic. The bacalhau à brás seemed so complex with a variety of textures and ingredients, all of which were extremely tasty. We were all shocked when Kat explained it only takes Portugal natives about 10 minutes to make. From the outer layers of the julienne onion and shoestring potato chips, seasoned with olive oil, mixed with the codfish and topped off with an egg to bind it all together, the bacalhau à brás was a huge hit. Needless to say, by this point, we were all pretty full. Our excellent guide, Kat from eatingeurope.com, wasn't quite done with us yet though, as she wanted to make sure we all got to try Portugal's #1 dessert.
Portugal, already probably the best experience we've had yet. This is where locals go to, so the food is authentic, it's fun, it's festive, and it's fantastic. And Kat's an awesome guide. And we have one more surprise she's gonna get for us, and I believe this is the signature dessert of Portugal. So it's not Malasada, guys.
Here you go, and I'm excited to see what you think of your very first custard tart, which is the most famous Portuguese pastry there is in the entire world. I'm going to be your cinnamon fairy. I'll sprinkle some cinnamon on there. Not too much so it's not overpowering, just a hint of cinnamon.
Verdict?
Delicious.
Nice.
Yummy. Perfect. Really good, delicious.
I like the technique here, right and left hand. Nice. See, Portuguese signature dessert. Look at that. Oh, it's so good. I love this burnt top here. Oh, it's super creamy, but the outside here, very crispy. This is the perfect way to end the night. Folks, you need to come visit Kat here in Portugal because this was our first night here. This was probably one of the best experiences on this GLOBUS Non-Stop Travel tour. The food was fantastic. We love being able to be where locals are.
Amazing.
You know, the cobblestone streets, the colors of the buildings, everything is just so, the experience is so wonderful. And thank you for taking us tonight.
It was my pleasure. Which was your favorite tasting? Hard to say?
Hard to say, but let me tell you, the dessert that you surprised us with at the very end, this is from
Manteigaria.
Portuguese signature custard
Tart. Yeah.
tart. It's amazing. I love the crispy outside and that creamy inside. Fantastic.
So
fantastic. Again, one more time, where can people find out more about you and what you do here in Portugal?
EatingEurope.com.
EatingEurope.com, Instagram, social media.
Yes, Eating Europe.
Follow them. We had a great time here in Portugal, and like I said, you kind of like raised the bar, you know, for our visit here to Europe. So, folks, as always, mahalo for watching. Come see Kat here in Portugal. Take care and aloha.
Aloha. Thank you. Obrigada.
Obrigado.
Yes.
Yes.
There you got it.
Get one right. Take care. Aloha.